Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the media launch for Spicemas 2024. I am your chairperson, Chrislyn Lashington, and we will first begin with a word of prayer. I invite ACP John Mitchell from the Royal Grenada Police Force to the podium to open with a word of prayer.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. Could we recognize the presence of God? And the Bible declares that in everything we do, we should give thanks and praise, for He orders the steps of His people. Heavenly Father, Lord, today we are here gathered to launch a cultural activity. I pray, O God, that the presenters, you would give them wisdom, God, knowledge and understanding with everything that will be said and done. Father, I pray, God, for the activity which will be in August, the major activities. God, that you would give guidance to our nation, in particular to our safety and security of our citizens. O God, and the job that is executed by the Royal Grenada Police Force and Spicemas. Father, I pray above all that you would guide, protect, and grant wisdom, Lord, for this process this morning. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Mr. Kurt Ross, Chairman of the Board of Directors for the Spicemas Corporation and other directors of the Spicemas Corporation, Mr. Cecil Noel, Chief Executive Officer for the Spicemas Corporation, staff of the Spicemas Corporation, as well as stakeholders who are present here today, members of the media, those of you joining us live online, good morning. We are here to present the details of the best season of the year. I'm sure everyone can agree. It is our largest cultural festival, Spicemas, our second carnival for the year, taking place on mainland Grenada. The theme for this year is an explosion of culture, and we are so excited to roll out this exciting series of events, this festival that we're so proud of here in Grenada. I welcome to the podium Mr. Kurt Ross, the chairman of the board, to give us some welcoming remarks.
Pleasant good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining us. As chairman of Spicemas Corporation, I'm thrilled to officially announce Grenada Carnival 2024, deemed as a theme, an explosion of culture. This year's celebration to be an unforgettable one, a vibrant tapestry woven from the rich threads of Grenadian tradition and infectious energy of the Caribbean spirit. Spicemas is more than just a party. It's a cultural experience. It's a chance to immerse yourself in the tradition that have shaped our islands, to connect with the Grenadian people, and to create memories that will last a lifetime. We invite everyone from all corners of the globe to join us for this cultural explosion. Grenada awaits you with open arms, ready to share the magic of Spicemas under our theme, An Explosion of Culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross, for welcoming us to this media launch today. And now for the meat of the matter. We are going to get the details of Spicemas for 2024. I invite Mr. Cecil Noel, Chief Executive Officer for the Spicemas Corporation.
A very pleasant good morning, one and all. An explosion of culture, Spicemas 2024. Ladies, and gentlemen, we are really pleased that at Spicemas, we can continue to work towards making Grenada and its place when coming to Carnival a permanent fixture on a global scene. We have seen, we have heard, we know what Spicemas is, what we have gained from it over the years, and this year, 2024, is expected to be no different unless, and what we're hoping for, is a difference of greater things, better things. My task this morning as CEO is to outline, and I'll be really brief, is to outline some of the key components of Spicemas, things that you need to know. First of all, I would like to introduce to you the Board of Directors of Spicemas. As you heard before, we have with us here today Mr. Kurt Ross, who is the Chairman of the Board of Directors. Mr. Ross. We have Ms. Frances Purcell, who is the Vice Chair. Mr. Deloney Edwards, who is, as Director, is responsible for the legal matters pertaining to the board. Mr. Christopher Phillip, the Director responsible for business and finance. Mr. Victor Ashby, who is the representative of the Grenada Steel Band Association. Mr. Sylvan Chan, Director has responsibility for working and coordinating with Calypso and soca artists. Mrs. Dolores Winsborough, who represents culture. Mrs. Erica McIntosh, the representative for the National Lotteries Authority, and ACP John Mitchell, who represents the RGPF. As CEO, I also sit on the board at meetings. Now, it's important to know that all that happens, everything that comes through, comes on, there are some people in the background who are responsible for making it happen. Though a very small staff and entrusted with a huge responsibility of putting on Spicemas, our staff has been doing a tremendous job. And I think it's just fitting that publicly we acknowledge them. And our staff members, we have Ms. Della Callis, Ms. Julian George, Ms. Siobhan Francis, Ms. Keisha Lawrence, Ms. Reba Marquez, and Mr. Theo Connaught. But of course, I also need to include, we also have our PRO, which is not a full-time job, but without that position, again, it would leave us in some spaces that could have us wanting. So it's important to recognize Ms. Chrislyn Lashington as our Public Relations Officer. Our focus at Spicemas Corporation is to find innovative ways to transform Spicemas as it depicts our cultural and creative expressions. By fusing our uniquely rich heritage into modern expressions through creativity and fun, while maintaining our unmistakably Grenadian identity. Now, those are a few words that says a lot. We think about Spicemas and we think of our rich tradition. We think of our traditional mass, Veku, Shortney, Moko Jumbi, Wild Indian, Apache, and the list goes on. And we reminded of our history, reminded of where we came from, where we are, and where we want to go. We think of our job. And all these are elements that come to fuse. And with all of these, we're really hoping and working towards that grand explosion for 2024. Some key things to note when we talk about our explosion and our cultural explosion. Last year when we met here, we spoke a lot about what we were doing, what we hope to achieve. So just to let you know, we continue working on policies and procedures to help govern and make Spicemas better yearly. We have been in engagement, whether it's from a ministry standpoint or otherwise, to ensure that what we do in terms of policy will help govern and help protect Spicemas, make it better. We are in fact working at this stage with the Ministry of Finance on an impact assessment, an economic impact assessment, and this is part of what we want to put as policy direction, because we want to make sure that when we spend monies to put on Spicemas, we could in fact come back to you and give you all the relevant information as to why we spend it and the outcome of it, who benefited from it, how much the economy benefited from it, both from a social standpoint as well as from an economic standpoint. So we continue working towards that. We continue our focus on traditional mass. And for those of you who were privy to be at our traditional mass festival at Victoria last year, I'm sure that you would attest it was huge to the extent that we have to relook what we do. So we have agreed that although we put a lot of emphasis on it last year, we are going to continue with that this year. So when we go to Victoria this year for traditional mass, we are going to see it explode in a different manner from that which took place over the years. And just to give you a little brief, most of the focus at traditional mass was at a central point, Heroes Square. This year, our plan is to take it around the entire town of Victoria. So when you go there, the mass will parade around Victoria, the judging will take place around Victoria, and one of the key reasons for that is because apart from the masqueraders enjoying themselves, the spectators also need that experience. Being in that confined area last year, we realized the congestion. People were not able to quite enjoy what took place. So we are now taking it to the streets. So the judging, the display are going to be along the streets so that more people have an opportunity to see everything face up and to be more intimate with the event. We took some very bold steps last year with regards to time, the quality and the management of time when coming to our events. And again, I want to say kudos to the staff on the team, but more so to the people who perform at these events, because we were able, for most part, to start on time. And in the areas where we may have fall back a 15, half an hour, this year, our aim is to improve on that. So when we say start time is 8, we working towards 8. Whether it's at an indoor venue or on the streets, that's the plan. And I think from what we have demonstrated last year, it is very obvious that this is very much achievable and we would have that under control. You may be asking why so much emphasis on time, but it's important to note as we continue to showcase Spicemas to the world, the whole question of production, the whole question of what we do when we start, how we start, it's key if we ought to continue showcasing our culture to the outside world. We have and continue to have consultation with all major stakeholders. So we are talking about the artists, the singers, the dancers, our queen contestants, our fancy mass band, and the list goes on. But including that is our sponsors, because we have received a lot of positive feedback from them, which in fact has pointed us in direction that will only make what we do better. And with their collaborative efforts, theirs and Spicemas, we only see a marriage that will be long-lasting. We continue to have those discussions, and I can tell you we have had discussions so far with the Traditional Mass Band Association, and for those of you who don't know, Last year, we were able to separate the traditional mask from that of the fancy mask. So you have them now being looked at and protected by themselves. And we are looking at working towards having the traditional mask do their own display, showcase their own talent on the streets, apart from Victoria. And as we go on, we will hear more of that. But I just give you a little insight because it's important that the media know. Carnival Monday, the plan is that traditional masks will have their own space along the Lagoon Road, Kirani James Boulevard, where that can showcase to the rest of the world what our rich cultural heritage is all about. Emphasis on calypso on steel band. Though not dying, though felt so by some people, we are positive that these are two elements of our art form that deserve special mention and treatment. It may be true that they by themselves cannot pay in terms of what happened to the actual events that they host. But nonetheless, these are such integral part of our cultural heritage that we just see it fit to continue to work to help promote and showcase our steel band and our calypsos. And I'm very happy to say, especially coming out of as recent an event as yesterday, that PAN is very much where we want it to be. Part of what we have done between last year and this year is to work along with the association to ensure that there are, as much as we can, have events to bring people out. So there was PAN on the Sand. For Independence, we had the PAN and the cuisine on the Carnage. And I can tell you from what was displayed last night at PAN Expression, there is absolutely no doubt that PAN has its following and it can only get better. So we are going to be working along with them, making sure that we visit them at the PAN House. And let me just say it, we're going to do likewise with the Calypso, and to make sure as we go along that we help push in these two elements so that we'll see better attendance at Panorama as well as the March Square this year. Also, down for big focus as we continue to explore the culture will be what happened Juve morning. And Juve morning, I'm telling you, it is expected to be a serious explosion of culture. We're not going to get into the detail, but at Kirani James Boulevard is definitely going to come alive as a lot of the focus is going to be placed on job, but not as you know it. It's going to be placed on job in a manner that is going to be both historical and educational. So we are throwing it out from now. Make sure Juve morning, early, you are present and to witness what we have planned in terms of the outlay for the job. And I will suffice to say that we have a meeting with them tomorrow as we continue to plan on that explosion of culture. In addition to that, for the Juve morning, we'll also have Old Mass, and we are really working to try to get a larger number of Old Mass, both as group as well as individual, to be on the road this year. I mentioned of the Juve being on the Kirani James Boulevard. They will have their time slot. Likewise, the Old Mass will be afforded a time slot on the Carnage area to display and depict all that they would like to. The whole question of spectator improvement and experience, we are working along, especially with the Fancy Mass Band, to ensure that the experience this year is going to be better than it was before. Based on the discussions we have had so far, we expect, again, when coming to time, that the Fancy Mass Band will come out on time so we can start on time, that people will be able to see them in their full regalia on the road with some sun, with all the glitters and pomp and flair. We are working with them to ensure that that also happens. One of the areas this year that we're going to put some additional emphasis on is that of the prize monies for our National Carnival Queen. It is one of the areas that over the years basically remained still. There wasn't much growth there. So it is one of the few places where you will see increase in prize monies this year. And I would hasten to add that the Queen contestants, they're already on full bloom. For those of you who did not experience it, we had what was referred to as the Queen contestant mask reveal regalia on Friday, last Friday, at the Crown Ball of the Radisson, and that was a spectacle. It was really an experience, one so much that we are being advised that we should make this a regular staple on our calendar of events. It was truly a remarkable session. So on Friday, what we did was have the queens on masks, so now you know who the young ladies are representing which parish. You can identify them not just by name, but by a face. This year, the big stage for most of our major events will be right here at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. And I'm saying this because with the work that is being done on the cricket stadium and all the concerns with regards to the protection of the field and the track, a lot of people were wondering what's going to happen. But at this stage, I think we do have the blessings that most of our major events will be at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. Let's look at some of the routes. So for Juve, the route will be, we will start at the Montande intersection, and the bands will come along the Kirani James Boulevard to Port Highway and onto the Carenage. And you will hear me talking about onto the Carenage, and that is the expectation. I was in a similar forum and someone asked a question about the lights and the whole aspect of how the trucks will be able to go across. We have been able to sit, for example, with the Fancy Mars Band leaders, and we were able to come up with a plan. We also had discussion with the NOC, the National Organizing Committee, with respect to what can be done with the lights. And for those of you who may not be aware of where I'm going with this, the lights, because of the height of it, it will impede in terms of the trucks going over there. But I was reliably informed that changes will be made, if not permanent, at least temporary, to be able to facilitate that. So the plan is that we'll have for Juve as well as for all the other parades the ability to be able to go over on a carenage. And there's a lot of significance in doing this because we also have the people whose livelihood, such as the vendors, depending on the patronage from the people in the vicinity. So we are encouraging that and we're working towards achieving that. As I said before, in the case of the Old Mass for Juve morning, they will start at Burns Point and go across to the Carenage. In the case of pageant, the pageant will start at the Belmont Panda intersection as well and will take primarily the same route, which is coming across the Kirani James Boulevard and onto the Carenage. We are aware that there may be a few bands whose preference may be to circle the Tantine area. Should that be the case, what happens is that when the bands reach Burns Point, they would head across the top Tantine, over to the Old Trafford area, down by Reno, and maybe loop. And I say that's if it so become necessary. Monday night mass and the parade of the band on Tuesday. That route will be the longer route, starting at the Grandance Post Office and proceeding Belmont, Kirani James Boulevard, Port Highway, Carenage as well. So that's the route we are looking at. Start and end time. It is extremely important that we take note of this, because what we have found and are fully aware of is that if our Spicemas is to have any real resemblance of order, time is one of the key ingredients. So for example, you will see I have here for Juve 4 a.m. We are fully aware that with respect to the law, what it says is 5, but we are encouraging people to gather as early as possible so we can have an early start, because everything is going to be time bound. So if we can gather 4 a.m. and get moving, let's say 1:15, 1/2, and there's no real challenges with respect to the security aspect and other things, it's going to be key. But part of why we are also really pushing for that, remember I told you about that spectacle and what we want to do with the jabs at Kirani James Boulevard? That early start time is going to be critical for the plans we have for jab. And I'm going to be saying it, and our PR is going to be saying it, because we expect this to be something really big for Grenada and for jab and our Juve. So Juve will start. We'll have an early start, congregating from 4 and moving. And the plan is to start the stop around 9 o'clock. So for example, with the aid of the RGPF officers, we will be going around, let's say primarily to people like the DJ, and announcing to people that we are time to boil down, if I may say it that way, or time to simmer down. So by 9:30, all DJ music should be stopped. By 10 o'clock, we're hoping the place, people clear the place, we can clean it and get ready for the next event on the street, which is pageant. We are really asking people to work with us. Last year we tried it, it worked well, and we just want to improve on it this year to make sure we have that level of control with time. The pageant will start at 1 p.m. And this year, for Monday, the pageant, we're going to be putting some additional emphasis on the traditional mass, which I also mentioned, outside of the traditional mass festival in Victoria. So I am making the appeal from all now. DJs, people playing music along the Kirani James Boulevard, please, the first session of pageant on Monday is for that of the display and the parading of the traditional mass. So we will not need any DJ music. The jab going to be using drums, the Vaco, the clogs, and the other people will be doing the chant, and we want it to be a case where this could be a truly family experience. People come out, you're able to hear what is being said, and you see what is being done, because it's going to be a display of what's supposed to happen with the various traditional mass bands. So that is expected to start 1 p.m. and end at 6 p.m. And we want to end at 6 p.m. so that people now can recoup, get themselves organized for the Monday night mass, which commences at 8 p.m. And the Monday night mass will start at 8 p.m. and go maybe as late as 2 a.m. if necessary. I know over the years we heard a lot of complaints with Monday night mass. But again, from the experience of last year, we did not start 8, but guess what? We started 8:15, and a lot of people applauded us for that. We still have 15 minutes to catch up on, and we will do that in 2024. The parade of the bands on Tuesday, that is expected to commence at 11 a.m. And again, coming out of all the discussions and meetings we had, especially with the fancy mass band leaders, we expect that to happen. I will just explain to you. Part of the discussion had to do with how do we encourage the people that's playing mass, who spend the money for the fancy mass, to make sure they are there to commence and to really use up their spendings and enjoy themselves on the road. So things we know that other activities in other parishes, the Fancy Mass Band leaders has taken upon themselves to try as much as possible to educate their masqueraders of the importance of being on time, having spent the money to be on the street and do what has to be done. So as early as maybe during some of the registration, they are going to take the opportunity to speak to that. I mean, ACP is here, and part of what we explained to them, if a band has a number to be on the road at number 1, and they're not ready, what we plan to do is park them up on the side, and maybe that's kind of like not what I want, because we have to be able to get the movement on the road. So with respect to times, that's what we're looking at. Here is the full calendar of events, and I will just quickly go through it. By the way, this was publicized since 2023, the latter part of the year. So we know people should be fully aware of it. I'll just quickly go through it for those who are hearing me. April 29th, gone. Is it? Today? Spicemas media launch. May 4th, we are having our Spicemas launch right here at the car park. May 11th, Spicemas Diaspora launch in New York. And then we start getting into the real meat of the matter. Quarterfinals, as some people like to refer to it, preliminaries, July 4th to 7th. July 11th to 14th, the groovy preliminaries or quarterfinals. July 19th to 22nd, you have the Calypso tents being judged. July 25th, the Brian Griffith Groovy semifinals. July 26th, Dr. Trevor Friday Power Soca finals. And I would just pause for a minute. You know, last year I was actually engaged by a few people asking, who are these people? I paused to make the point that part of what we also plan to do, and media, we would need your help, is to make sure that people like Melody, who is one person, Papitet, another person, as well as Dr. Trevor Friday, that we do a little bit more work to educate the general public of who these people are, were, because they have all gone to the great beyond, and the significant role that they played with respect to our culture, and in particular, Calypso and Soca. So media, help us with that, do some research, and let's get it going. The Traditional Mass Festival at Victoria, that will be July 27th. July 28th, the Melody Papitet semifinal. August 3rd, Children's Carnival Frolic. August 8th, Majestic Thursday, the Queen Show. Or I should say Queen Pageant. August 9th, Bacchanal Friday, that's Groovy and Power Soca. August 10th, Fantastic Saturday, Panorama. August 11th, the Mardi Gras. And yes, the Mardi Gras is back, just as it said on the big Sunday before what we do on the road. And the Mardi Gras in itself going to have some new elements, things to look forward to, including that of some element as we continue to celebrate our 50th anniversary of independence. We are making the effort to include some aspect of our independence and achievement over the 50 years. So the Mardi Gras is going to be back. We're going to have the Queen and King of the Band competition. And we're going to have a host of other things that are going to come true at the Mardi Gras. You will hear more of it as we go on. And of course, we're on the road the 12th and 13th. I just highlight those, so I'm not going to go into those again. A few things that we just need to take note of. As mentioned before, we continue to look at policies, reviewing them to see how we can make Spicemas better. Things like subvention and concession, we have had some discussion on these, as well as with Marsban and other people who in one way or another may be impacted. And the whole question of what we do with subvention, who we give them to, how they ought to be accounted for. And I want to end by talking about some of our social responsibilities. And again, media, it is critical that you work with us. And I'm throwing this out to the other people outside there who listen to us, whether it's a church or religious organization, some other civic group. We need your help and support. We need you to partner with us. So, for example, some of our social and moral responsibilities. We know Carnival come, people see it at a time to have fun, and to have fun in a way sometimes that we need to remind them there's life after Carnival. So things like ensuring your children are left in safe keeping, especially for parents who will want to go out and have fun. No problem with that, but this is really important. You see, as we put on Spicemas, we also know that there are other important aspects that need to be taken care of. So we are encouraging you, parents, guardians, ensure that when you go to our events, adult events, that children are in safekeeping. We continue to implore you in terms of the moral responsibility to be modest in terms of how you dress. You're going to be on the road, there are going to be a lot of activities, a lot of driving, a lot of events. It's just obvious as part of your fun, part of alcohol may be part of it. We're asking you when you drink, you shouldn't drive. And even when you drink, you should drink responsibly. Don't drive under the influence of alcohol. We know there's some people, we like to consider ourselves a Christian country. So we just want to remind people as well of that spiritual responsibility that we all have and the need to uphold it as best we can. To our artists in particular, too often we have heard the cry in terms of our lyric, the lyrical content of our songs. And we are urging you, please, what you say, how you say it, has a very serious impact on our community. So we are urging you to make sure that in your songs, you can give us some good, positive, and uplifting lyrics. We are really asking you to do so. And as I talk about our social responsibilities, that takes me to the end of the key points I like to impress on the general public today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Noel, Chief Executive Officer of the Spicemas Corporation. We heard a host of events for this festival coming up. That's officially starting on the 4th of May and, of course, climaxing on the 13th of August, 2024. We're seeing the return of the King and Queen competition. We're seeing the return of the Mardi Gras on Carnival Sunday. We're also seeing the return of the Carnival pageant on Carnival Thursday. And, of course, all the events we know and love. At this point in time, you can place your questions. So let us know your media outlet or the organization that you're representing and state your name, of course, and let us know your question. I will also invite ACP Mitchell to join us as well on the head table should there be any questions as it relates to security, traffic, any police matters with Carnival. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Sherry and Noel, GIS. My first question has to do with the point that the CEO made in terms of increased monies for the Carnival Queen. I would like to know what percentage increase would be given to the Carnival Queen, the winner. Mike.
It's on. Okay, so what we have seen over the years, Sherian, and we are going to take it in steps and not no big leap. The Carnival Queen, with respect to their prize money, it was at $10,000 for the winner. We are moving that up to at least, and I say at least, 15 this year, right? And we are, in fact, still in discussion because a number of things we are looking at, and I think we just had to be really fair and honest in this respect. Over the years, we also offered like scholarship to the young ladies. That, in fact, has become a challenging prospect to do properly because it's not everybody that participates wants a scholarship in the first gate. And secondly, I think when that arrangement was originally made, the whole concern, or should I say the hope, was that government will be able to work along with SGU to facilitate that. And again, as we look at it in a deeper and broader way, depending on what somebody wants to study, it's also not there. So that part of the in-kind price, we have to really seriously look at in terms of what we can do for the young ladies. So having said that, we are working at increase the actual prize money. So it's going to be 15, 10, 12, up from 10, 8, 6 from previous years. Is that the best we can do? Yes. Is that the best that we can do for the young ladies going forward? I'm sure we'll agree that we would love to do better as we go forward. But as I say, we'll take them in step at a time. In addition to that, the support to the Queen by way of subvention to help them prepare themselves, we also look at what can be done there, and we are upping our game in that respect.
My next question has to do with the major activities. Yes, it was launched last year. Any particular reasons for reverting all your major shows back to, well, like the term at Carnival City? You know, we had the Calypso up at Progress Park and so.
Well, with the exception of the Calypso final being at Progress Park last year, all the others were at. So we are bringing it back. And we are of the opinion that the Mardi Gras in itself, it's something that is significant as well as synonymous with our Carnival. And when we talk about our culture, our explosion, and wanting to keep things and build on the past, we saw it extremely important to bring that back as part of our staple event for Carnival.
Okay. And I'm going to ask this one and then give way to my colleagues. The Mardi Gras, you mentioned the return of the King and Queens of the bands.
Yes.
With that being said, what would be the start time, and do you have a buy-in from most of the bands? How many King and Queens can we look forward to seeing on stage?
But the registration is not completed as yet in terms of the Fancy Mass Band. But from our discussions and meeting with them, there are approximately 12 such bands. And let me take the opportunity to also explain to the general public that what we are requesting of the Fancy Mass bands is that they compete for Band of the Year. We know there's some various trends and thoughts with respect to what we do and how we do it. But we are encouraging them as much as possible to do that. And there are a number of reasons why we are doing that. And you'll see how it also falls in line with the Queen and King of the band. Because we see that as being one of the main way we can have the fancy mass band be more orderly on the streets. And when I say orderly, I'm talking about the portrayals in sections, as well as the actual tendency to be moving forward, and not be seen as quote-unquote a party band who just stops, have a party in the street, and there's no real flow of the bands moving from point A to point B. So we are encouraging them to all compete. We are not sure if they all will, but that is our aim. So Band of the Year is going to be key, and you can't really have King and Queen of the Band without Band of the Year. So it's a total experience and offering with respect to bringing back the Queen and King of the Band.
Final question. What is the marketing plan for 2024 to ensure that competing events, if there are any, don't take away from support? You mentioned about the Pan Expressions and the support that was given there, and we do know what happens on the Panorama night. So any special marketing strategy or any special added attractions to the Panorama to ensure that you get very good turnout and support?
Yes, we do. And specifically as it relates to Panorama, part of what we have noticed is the spectators' experience at the event is not always one that is deemed the best. And I specifically say at the event because, for example, last year, for the people who viewed Panorama, let's say pay-per-view online, they had a wonderful experience. I mean, we had comments coming in from those folks because it was produced in a manner whereby for the people viewing online, there was no hold-up, no lull in between. You had the commentaries coming after every band, and you had a prelude in terms of the history of the band coming before the bands. So we are very confident that as we continue to do pay-per-view and reach out to the audience in the diaspora and globally, we are fine with that and we will continue with that. However, for the patrons at the venue, we are working towards having a number of fillers that will do several things. Keep the audience alive and not have that lull as the bands change over from one to the next. But most of the fillers we are looking at are also aimed to be educational fillers, things that will further help people understand Pan. So whether it's going to be something dramatized, whether it's going to be a dance in between, whatever it is, that's the intention. So as it is now, we have had some preliminary meetings, but we have not had that major meeting with the Steelman Association as yet in terms of rolling out Panorama. I could tell you we had that with Queens, we had it with traditional mass, fancy mass. So Pan is one of those that is next in line for that. So that is how we plan on rolling out Panorama, especially for that venue experience.
Good morning, Rena Pierre Thomas, GBN News. I have a couple questions. My first question is regarding the traditional mass bands, subvention for them. Is there any changes for that?
Yes, but when you say changes, what exactly do you mean though?
Increase, sorry.
Yes, we are looking at increasing the subvention that we give to the traditional mass.
Any ideas to by how much?
No.
Okay. Also, the community groups within the different parish. We're talking about the Carnival Community Group. They normally have to launch at the different parish. What sort of extra support are you giving them? I know that they were receiving a certain amount. I can't remember the number now. Is there any increase as relates to that and support?
And again, I cannot give you an increase, but right now we have a document that is being prepared. We have had discussions at different levels with the ministry because we see it extremely important to assist those committees. So our aim is to ask for additional funds to be able to help them. And let me make it clear, although they fall as Carnival committees, the finances that are disbursed to them are finances, quote unquote, we have to receive from the ministry. So our trust at this point is to obtain more so we can better support them financially going forward. And let me just take the opportunity to also mention Spicemas, but Kayak Mass 2024. We have already, or we were able to go there and engage and work along with them for the same reason that I'm talking about the other parishes, because we see that there is a deficit in terms of the personnel, what is to be done, how it is to be done. So based on government's request, we are expected to intervene and work closer with all of these committees.
I don't think that I heard a budget for carnivals for Spicemas 2024. Did you give us a figure?
Yeah, we can give you a figure, and I hope you can give us some of the money. No, for example, for Spicemas 2023, it costs us approximately $4.1 million to put it on. And sometimes I kind of, well, I wouldn't say avoid, but don't deliberately talk figures because it gets into a lot more discussions. Because it should be told, it costs us, as I said, $4.1 million. And from the question you just asked with regards to support for the other committees, when we do some rough calculation, we expect that budget to be approximately $5 million for this year. Are we going to get it? I hope so. But just letting you know, right? I would jump ahead as well as to say, thanks to the NLA, because they have been playing a very pivotal role in terms of the finances we receive. We were able to receive approximately 1.1 from them last year, million, and we were able to receive approximately 1 million from government. Does that say anything to you? Anything? It says, for example, what we received was 2.1 to run Carnival. The actual budget was 4.1. So the support we got from sponsors, and I want to say that, and I want to thank them and ask them to continue being there and supporting us. The additional support we got from sponsors was and remains a key component of what we do. The others, we were able to work, so things like pay-per-view and other aspects of the Carnival gates receipt in terms of to be able to cover. And yes, if you don't ask it, I would say it. We didn't know anybody. We were able to pay all our bills for 2023.
I think my final question to you is regarding parish queen shows. I know the process for the queens are different now, but is there any thoughts of returning parish queen shows? Because it's normally looked forward. A lot of people look forward, and the groups normally gain a lot of money through those queen shows. So is there any thoughts of returning this event?
So I will answer that by saying, things like the parish queen shows, they're really the work of the parish committees. I mean, we will encourage them to do things like that, but it is really the work of the parish committees to do the parish queen shows. What we have done over the last 2 years, and it is something that can be, and in some cases will intertwine with what the parish would like to do, is what is referred to as a casting call. Now, the casting call, in essence, what that does is invite as much people or as much young lady of each parish who wish to be a part of it to show up and contest for the opportunity to be the parish person, as opposed to kind of like, let me say, hand-picking people, right? So to answer your question, we would work along with the committees to see how we can get both synchronized and work, the casting call along with that of the parish queen shows.
Morning, everyone. Good morning, head table. Question for Mr. Noel. In terms of the monetary allocation for Soca Monarch, is there an increase for that?
No, there is no increase for that.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of sponsors, you have a rough figure of the amount of sponsors that you have currently?
No, it's not something I would want to diverge at this point, though. But we are working, we have engaged a number of the sponsors. In some cases, we have already received confirmation. In others, it's work in progress. You have something you can help us with?
No problem. We can talk after.
Okay.
Okay, you have a question for Mr. ACP John Mitchell. So we know that Carnival is a time where we have lots and lots of tourists. We see a number of people on the roads. So in terms of the road searches, can we see an increased amount of that, road searches?
Thank you very much. And again, certainly the overarching responsibility of the RGPF with regards to Carnival is that to ensure that you have a safe, enabling environment so that persons can celebrate. So while persons celebrate, the force is responsible for ensuring the safety and the security. Certainly, as the events continue to escalate close to Carnival, you would see also a culminating escalation of police officers on the street. And searches, stop and searches, diversion of traffic, and other operational aspects certainly will be a part of the whole process. So yes, to our citizens, expect not arbitrary searches, but expect once there is reasonable suspicion from police officers, yes, there will be searches of persons or of vehicles, once there is reasonable suspicion. What we want to encourage, and that may be taking long-winded, taking the question a little bit off, but what we want to certainly encourage our citizens and visitors is that there is a zero tolerance and continue to be a zero tolerance for offensive weapons. Last year, 2023, we had a tremendous event, absolutely almost safe, totally, no major incidents that were related to the Carnival, and certainly we are the gem of the Caribbean when it comes to safety and security. So we would want to continue to ensure, and the force, the Commissioner of Police, rank and files will continue to ensure that that happens this year.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. Speaking on the return of the competition for the mass bands, I don't recall seeing a director on your board specific for mass. So what is the status with the SMC's role in helping the Mass Band Association to reorganize to get an executive back in place?
Actually, what we have engaged the Mass Band Association, so basically they can form. We had a meeting with them, the CEO, and I have a committee where I would have put together, form Spicemas Corporation, to engage them so they can come together as one, form our official body, and we move forward from there. But the onus is on them to put themselves together in a group and in a committee.
So in the absence of the mass band, there wouldn't be any issues in terms of the competition and going forward and working along and so?
Well, there shouldn't be, and again, that's why, even in the absence of an association, I think because of our engagement, and may I say regular engagement with them, and that regular engagement is as a result of not having an association you can speak with directly. So we have had meetings with the mass band leaders, and we do not foresee any major challenges. But that does not mean it should stay like that. We are still hoping that the mass bands will see the need to really get themselves organized and be able to represent the fancy mass fraternity in a bigger and better way.
And what can we expect for the public launch on Saturday and the New York launch the following weekend?
A lot of fun, a lot of culture being explored. So for the launch on Saturday, it's basically a taste. You'll get a taste of what you expect when we get into Spicemas. And when I say into Spicemas, the major events. So we're going to have a presentation, or I should say, the queens. For the first time, we'll kind of introduce them to the public outside of the mask regalia we had on Friday. We'll have the reigning panorama champion on display. We expect to have additional steel band music. We are working towards a mini parade to come into the stadium. We're also going to have what I truly refer to as an explosive way of introducing the traditional mass. For the first time, we're going to kind of do a semi-dramatized, creative way of introducing them. So I hope people come out. I don't want to say much about it, but you expected to be here to see how that is revealed. Yeah, so you wouldn't have the regular way that an MC just say the vehicle is coming on stage. No. It's going to be rather creative and dramatized. Of course, we have Calypso and Soca winners from last year. They're all going to be participating and performing. And for most part, it's expected to be a thrilling and really vibrant event. We want to keep it tight. We want to keep it as a well-produced event because that too is going to be streamed live. The New York launch is going to be very similar to what I just outlined in terms of some of the traditional mass and some of the top artists who will be going up there and some who are up there performing at the launch. The main idea behind the diaspora launch, as I prefer to refer to it, is again to encourage people outside there to be able to come in for Spicemas 2024. So the launch is not just a launch for launching's sake. It's really a selling and a promotional event, you know, to let people see what we're doing, know what we're going to be doing, and so have them book early enough to be here for Spicemas 2024.
Last year there were complaints that the venue was too small. So do you mind using the microphone for us? Thank you so much. And remind us of your name
As well as where you're representing. Yes.
Last year, the venue was too small, according to comments. So you selected a bigger venue this year?
That's correct. It is a bigger venue. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Any further questions?
Officer Mitchell, could you just tell us some of the key parts or key components that the RGPF would be focusing on for Spicemas 2024?
Thank you very much. And certainly I would have laid out before a couple of them from the previous questions. But it is important, one of the major activities of the RGPF, that is of traffic management. Certainly the last time we checked, there were over 50,000 active vehicles on the road. And when you're talking about now the rentals and visitors and having to come to venues and mass gatherings, parking becomes a significant issue and concern. And so one of the issues that we will be and continue to advocate to our citizens to do carpooling as much as possible. Because when persons get to park in dark, unlit areas, that's an opportunity for crime. And it's not just the opportunity for crime, but again, we want to eliminate as much as possible the fear of crime. So that is one of it. Encouragement of, and I heard CEO mention it, the issue of drinking and driving. That's an event carnival period when persons drink a lot. It's quite, and it's well known. And so we want to encourage persons, do not drink and drive. If you have to drink, have a designated driver. The issue of checkpoints. And the checkpoints is not for your inconvenience. The checkpoints is there for your safety and your security. So at least we can conduct sufficient or enough checks to prevent persons, nefarious persons, maybe with weapons and otherwise, getting into events. We want to commend our youthful population, and I want to emphasize this from last year, because it's well known that our youthful population have the tendency, especially our males, to get involved in having cutlasses, knives, and so on. We saw that there was a significant reduction in that last year, and we want to congratulate them and encourage them this year. Let it be a total abstinence of offensive weapon coming into event, or offensive weapon as a total. So we just want to commend our youths, because not many times that they get commendation, and certainly we want to give them that kudos this year. But there are many others. The several departments, the fire department, the CRD department, CID, and other departments will be out there with you, the media, to be able to help us in terms of promoting safety, health, and the environment for Carnival 2024. Thank you very much.
So, with respect to the whole question of safety and security, I cannot help but emphasize how unique and how blessed we are as Grenadians. I don't know of anywhere else in the world where there's a carnival, and after it you hear almost little or nothing with regards to criminal activities. And I'm saying this because it's something we ought to be proud of. The safety of Grenada's carnival, the warmth, the friendliness, the peacefulness, and the whole feeling of I can enjoy myself and not be scared is one of what we have going for us. But hear what? We have it today, we want to keep it tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So we, as the ASP said, we want to ensure and we want to ask the general public, we have it going, let's keep it. Let's make sure that we keep that aspect, because it is one of our main selling points when coming to having people come in for Carnival, the whole question of safety. ASP spoke about the checkpoints, that's going to be key. We also send in as early as now the message out that things like aerosol can spray and so are very dangerous and hazardous. We're asking people to refrain from using those, especially in areas where you have large gathering. I guess at some point, security will also deal more with that. Part of the plan, and it came off well even last year, is to have meetings with promoters and DJs. And these promoters and DJs, for example, they play a key and pivotal role in terms of the safety element. And I think it's that area that sometimes we overlook. The power of using a microphone is so critical in terms of how people behave and react that it's important that we meet with them. And I'll give you a simple example. Someone may have permission, a promoter, to have an event that starts at 8 p.m. and supposed to end 3 a.m. in the morning. We are asking, for example, people like those promoters and DJs. You know the event is going to be boiling down, going to be simmering down, and supposed to end 3. We want you to use the power of your voice and microphone to, from 2:30, start getting people in that mood that, hey, it's coming to an end. Because what we have noticed, and although I don't have the stats, when an event is being ended abruptly, and depending on how it ends abruptly, people have that tendency to then start behaving ACP in ways that cause things to get out of order. So we are saying if we really manage this properly, and we asking our promoters and DJs and so to help us with that, that we could really have a lot of these things better controlled. Even with respect to the venues where some of these events are, remember some of them are in locations where they are residential area. And we talk about security and safety, but we also have to remember that sometimes it's not just the experience of the people in the event. We also need to have that experience and think of the other people in our community who can be impacted. So I just thought I just wanted to share those comments as well as we talk about safety and security.
Thank you, Mr. Noel. Any further questions? All right. Thank you so much for all your questions and for you coming here joining us for the launch, the media launch of Spicemas 2024. I now invite Director with responsibility for business and finance, Mr. Chris Phillip.
Good morning, all. On behalf of the Board of Directors and staff of the Spicemas Corporation, I would like to thank everyone for coming. I would like to thank our chairman, Kurt Ross, for his remarks, the CEO for the presentation which outlined the activities that we can look forward to for Spicemas 2024. I would like to thank TR Communications for allowing the general public to be able to have a view, an overview of the expectations of Spicemas. I would like to thank Chrislyn for an excellent job as being the chairperson for this event, ASP for answering the questions and opening a word of prayer relative to our safety and security for Spicemas 2024. On behalf of everyone, I want to wish you a most pleasant rest of the day, and I want all of us to be part of the explosion of culture for Spicemas 2024.
Thank you so much, Mr. Phillip, Director on the board of the Spicemas Corporation. On behalf of the chairman, the CEO, the directors also present today, staff, and of course, all our stakeholders from Spicemas, thank you so much for joining us. Members of the media, those of you who've joined us online, we appreciate you. Also, as we get ready for Saturday, the official launch of an explosion of culture, be sure to follow the Spicemas Corporation on Facebook as well as Instagram. And of course, check out the website for all updates as it relates to Spicemas 2024. I am your chairperson, Chrislyn Lashington. Have a great day.
Get ready to ignite your senses and experience the ultimate explosion of culture at the most anticipated event of the year. It's time to mark your calendars for the launch of Spicemas 2024, where the heartbeat of our nation comes alive in a spectacular celebration. Join us on Saturday, May 4th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada James Athletic Stadium car park. With over 20 of Grenada's most talented entertainers taking the stage, prepare to be mesmerized with soca and calypso. And of course, what's Spicemas without our spectacular mass bands? Witness the creativity and craftsmanship as they take center stage, filling the air with energy and spectacle. Best of all, admission is free. Come out, let's celebrate our culture, our heritage, and our unity at Spicemas 2024. An explosion of culture. Saturday, May 4th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada James Athletic Stadium car park.